So I have for you a couple things. I don't know if I should do all of them or if we just do one.
Did we have a time limit on it?
Nah.
Maybe it's not a good idea to
ask. Let me see if I can get the screen going. Does that work? Yes, that works. All right, nice. So I have two things I wanted to talk about. One is Mastodon, which is a distributed, federated social network, microblogging, sort of Twitter-alike, which has pretty cool or pretty decent Emacs bindings. So that could be a quick demo and sort of maybe also a bit of a talk about what Mastodon is and what it isn't. That's one thing. And the other thing is more just for shits and giggles, as they say. So this is a little thing I've been playing around with. It's a script which takes an image, it then converts that image into a PNG, then treats that PNG as if it's audio, feeds it through SoX, which is this audio Swiss Army knife, applying various, like boosted treble, put some echo on it, then convert the result back into an image, and so you get this like nicely glitched image. So I'll show you maybe what that looks like. Yeah, it doesn't really matter what you're looking at now. You get things like this.
Oh, can you show the before?
So the before is so that's one example. Or what else do I have?
So is that the original or?
No, that's the after.
Is it a delay or?
Yeah, that's a reverb, I think. Yeah. So and the cool thing is, of course, that you do this with ClojureScript scripts. So Mastodon or Synesthetic or both? Okay, which first? All right, cool. Actually, I'm first going to start with some public service announcements because a recurring topic at the Emacs Berlin is emojis and Emacs, which is of course very important. And there was some commotion a while ago because they added colored emoji support for Mac and then took it out again because they decided that they should not ship Emacs with a feature that is only available on non-free operating systems if they can't offer the same feature on free operating systems. But now there's a package, and the package will take any, if you enable the global mode for it, it replaces emoji and text with emoji images. So it always works, it's cross-platform, it uses emoji one. Finally, there's a good solution for emojis in Emacs on Linux, so that's really cool and makes me very happy. This is how I set it up with use package, and sure, so it installs it from Melpa and then enable it globally. That's one thing. And another thing I noticed today is that, so I built the latest Emacs from master, and I started and I got some weird errors, and then after Googling, it turned out that I had to delete my LPA directory and reinstall everything because the byte compilation is not necessarily compatible between versions of Emacs. So I came up with this little hack. Here, an emoji. So you can set the package user their variable for where to store LPA packages. And so if you make that something that is dependent on the Emacs version, then you can sort of run and switch between different versions of Emacs, and the LPA packages will be separate, and so you will not run into this problem. Small tip maybe for people who kind of upgrade quickly, or maybe like want to check bleeding edge, but then go back to more stable. Okay, so synesthetic. So, I mean, the basic idea, like this basically started out as a shell script. Actually, I'm not sure if I still have the original shell script. I guess I do. Oh yeah, glitch. So it started out as a big shell script where it's using convert, which is a part of ImageMagick, to convert the input into BMP. Why BMP? Because BMP is sort of the most simple image format. It just has, 1 or 2 bytes for each pixel after each other. Whereas, so you can do really, weird stuff with it and still have something that is something like an image. Whereas smarter formats like PNG or JPEG, you almost certainly are going to mess up all kinds of checksums and stuff, and it's just not going to work. Then I had to chop off the header, make sure that the header stayed intact, because otherwise you're also going to confuse image programs. And then the rest of it, we can pipe through SoX and get all kinds of stuff on it. And then finally put the header and the final result back together again. Truncate it, which will either make it shorter or longer, just to make sure that the final file has the right length again. And then convert the result back to a more nice image format, a ping instead of a BMP. So I converted all of this into a ClojureScript script that runs on Lumo. Lumo is a ClojureScript environment for Node.js. So it uses now the Node APIs to make all this in a nicer way. And so you say npm install Synesthetic -g for global, and then you get the Synesthetic command line utility, which has a couple of flags. So the basic way to use it is to basically say, okay, here's an input file, here's an output file, and then what comes after are a bunch of arguments that are passed on to SoX. So you can say something like treble 20, push the high frequencies. Okay, and it's glitching, and now we have a yak with lots of treble, as you can see. But of course, it gets even more fun if you say, here's a script. And so that's that ClojureScript script. And once you give it a script, the benefit of giving it a script is that you can say, watch the script for changes. So now this is just going to keep running, and I can I get a nicer workflow where I can make changes to the script and see that update kind of in real time. So let me put those next to each other. So yeah, you first have to say how the input is going to be interpreted. So I'm treating this as 8-bit audio at 44.1 samples per second, and as a a mono single channel audio. Sorry?
It's very interesting audio.
Well, I mean, 8-bit is not very common anymore, but for the rest, 44.1K is pretty standard. That's the rate of CDs. Exactly, yeah. And so you can see, sometimes you do end up with invalid images, but then if you just tweak the numbers slightly, then it usually starts working again. So yeah, and so you can, pump this to 11. But yeah, I think around 15 or 20 are kind of what you get out of that. So that's what treble does. Because treble works on high frequencies, which means that it works on a small number of pixels at one time. Whereas if you look at bass, because bass are bigger wavelengths, they span more samples. So they you get more this washed out effect. So yeah, if this wants to cooperate. So you see that it kind of starts sort of smooshing. It also gets very dark. For that, you can apply a DC shift, basically changing where the 0 point is to make it a little bit lighter again. But yeah, I don't know. Oh yeah, no, this should be between 1 and 0, minus 1 and minus 2, ideally. Now, I'm treating it as a single channel 8-bit because I find that's how you kind of get the smoothest results. But for instance, if you go to 2-bit, then you already get something very different because now, you know, basically a single audio sample might contain data from more than 1 pixel. And so you get sort of a much messier effect. And if you go even higher, then you kind of see these lines, how it's sort of, you know, grouping pixels together. Let's make that a stereo. Yeah, also if you change the sample rate, then what treble does exactly changes quite a bit.
An option to like play the audio of the picture while you edit it? I
mean, you could. But I don't know if it's really going to be very nice to listen to. I haven't really tried it yet, actually. The thing is with these, yeah. So now SoX just says, okay, that's a little bit too weird for me. So like 8, 16, and 32 work. But anything else, like I've tried with 12, but that's just it's not made for that. It could have been like pretty cool effects. Maybe we should file a bug report. Okay, so yeah, a delay is yeah just a time shift basically, right? So now this is like in number of samples. So if you just have is this working? Sometimes I need to reopen this. Which yeah, it tends to shift the colors a bit. It's probably because it's sort of cutting up samples in a different way. So this kind of cycles through these different colors. But you also see that it's just sort of all, it all gets shifted to one side, which kind of makes sense. Now, the fun thing is, if you start treating this as multi-channel and then applying different delays to different channels, so say that I don't delay the first channel, but I do delay the second channel, yeah, then this is already very messy. Or if you delay them with very small differences, then you kind of get really weird color shifts. Or if you go for like lots of channels, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then let's say that we shift 1 with 6 and 1 with 7. I don't know, I'm just trying something. Is it still running? No. Too few input channels. Did I have one too many here? Yeah, so delays, you can do fun stuff with delays, but the real fun stuff starts with, for instance, echoes. Sometimes this one doesn't really, how do I get this to? Now we're talking glitches, right? Like that's what we're looking for. maybe go a little bit easier on this. Yeah, so you get the idea. That's Synesthetic. I hope you try it. Documentation still needs to improve, but I'm working on it. So there's an examples directory where I did a little bit of. So here, for instance, I documented a bit like how to use a reverb or what these different things do. The next step that I want to do, so at the moment it relies on SoX, so you have to make sure that you have SoX installed on your system. What I'd like to do is instead of SoX, use Web Audio API, which you can also get for Node as a separate package, and then the SoX dependency is going to go away. Plus then, now you only get sort of a single pass, you can put a couple things in sequence, but what I would like to be able to do is build up more of a signal graph, say like take the first 5 seconds of the image, feed them through this reverb, and then take the next 5 seconds and feed them through this filter, and then mix them together again, and ta-da. So that's all, I guess, future plans. Any questions about Synesthetic? Who's going to try it?
Why?
Why you had a question? Who asked that? Because it's cool. Someone posted on Mastodon that they were using Audacity as an image editor, with this trick of first converting to BMP, and then I thought, okay, that's actually pretty cool. You can get cool effects that way, but it would be even cooler if I could sort of automate and script it. Because if you're doing it like Audacity is this bare bones image audio editor, but you get also image editor. But it's a pretty long like feedback loop if you need to like convert it, load in there, make some changes, save it, convert it again. So that's why. Yeah, and because it's cool, I think. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to briefly talk about is Mastodon. Who knows what Mastodon is? Okay, a couple do, a couple don't. So there's a protocol, or actually a set of protocols called OStatus. And what OStatus does is it provides something that kind of behaves like Twitter. So here's an example of that. This is my timeline. These are my notifications. But the special thing about it is that instead of just being a single server, a single service provider, it's federated. So anybody can run their own server, and they all talk to each other. So, for instance, I'm following this person on the cyber.space server. This one's on octodot.social. This one's on darksocial.party. These are all like different Mastodon instances, and they all federate. So they kind of share their updates with each other, and you can follow people from other instances. Mastodon is not the first server to implement this protocol, this OStatus. There's another one which is called GNU Social. So GNU as in GNU Emacs, so it's kind of falls under the same umbrella organization. GNU Social is a lot older, it's like 10 years old. It started out as Identica and has had a bunch of names over the years. At the moment it's known as GNU Social. So here's an example of a GNU Social instance. Looks much more like Twitter. This is written in PHP, I believe. There's another one in PHP called PostActive. But so sort of the new kid around the block, or on the block, is Mastodon. Mastodon is a Rails app, Ruby on Rails. It kind of started taking off 6 months ago, and then really got a big boost in the last couple of weeks, last month. So they just topped now over 500,000 users across 1,500 instances. And the interesting thing with Mastodon, GNU Social, the name says it, it's like part of the GNU umbrella, which means that it's sort of a lot of free software bros, which tends to be a very like non-diverse crowd, which are not really conscious of the challenges of minorities on social media. Whereas Mastodon, there's a lot of LGBTQ involved. There's on the lot of instances, for instance, that focus on furries or, you know, like whatever niche social group you feel you belong to, and they kind of felt it really important to be able to have good features around that. So for instance, one thing they added is that you can have a content warning on your, so tweets are called toots. So you can have a content warning on your toot, which means that you give a little example sentence. This is a content warning. And then you give the actual content. And then let's see if I find an example here of a content warning. It kind of shows up as a show more link. So you only see the first line and then you can click to see the rest. You can tag images as non-safe for work. Here, show more. Yeah, so people tend to, so one big thing, so it's not just technical differences, but also the crowd is quite different. So whereas on Twitter, it's a lot about politics. On Mastodon, it's a lot less about politics. And if it is, then people tend to put it behind content warnings, just sort of because people are already stressed out enough in general. People should be able to choose if they really want all that negative content sort of hitting them all the time. People tend to be really friendly to each other. You see here that you have pretty long toots, so the limit is 500 characters instead of 140, which sounds like wild when you're coming from Twitter and you're so used to 140 and you think that that's, you know, how God intended it. But once you get used to it, it's actually really delightful to be able to just, you know, be able to explain something in a few sentences instead of having to sort of jam your thoughts into badly spelled punchlines. That's also, it's not something that the protocol enforces. So GNU Social depends on the instance. Like some instances allow up to 1,000 or 2,000 characters, which maybe is a bit too far out there. But so yeah, that's Mastodon. It's created by this guy, Cagron, who's working really hard on it. There's a whole lot of instances out there. A whole lot of instances. And so that's kind of the hard part in the beginning. It's like choosing which instance you want to go on. Different instances have different rules. So I'm on tootcat. If you go to tootcat/about/more, you'll find that tootcat has a code of conduct, and these are the people that keep the servers up, and these are the things that are allowed and not allowed. And this kind of varies from server to server. So that's probably one of the things that you want to look at. Also, the tootcat admin avatar is an image that I glitched with Synesthetic. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so over to Emacs. There's a pretty recent but a very actively developed package of a Mastodon client. It's on Melpa. So you install it from Melpa and you say Mastodon instance URL. This is a server that I'm using, tootcat or Mastodon Social or Pots in Space or Woo Space or all these very cool domain names. And then you say meta x Mastodon. And now let's see if I remember my password. Yeah, so Mastodon supports OAuth, and I kind of would have preferred that it now showed me in my browser and said authorize, which there's no technical reason why it couldn't, but the author has instead decided to go for password-based authentication. It's still, like, it used that password once to get a token, and then afterwards uses that token for authorization. Yeah, one thing that I've noticed that sometimes if it gets a 422 or something, if it gets a negative response back, that it just kind of hangs, which is unfortunate. And I logged out earlier because I wanted to show you the login, but maybe that was so smart. Oh, here we are. Okay, so this is the timeline. So retrieving some assets. So this is a single toot. has the text of the toot, and then who tooted it, and their display name and their username. You can go to different toots with K and J. It shows the images, which is cool. I can compose a new toot with N. Contact and host. I'm not sure what it's doing now. I was updating, I guess. I guess if I go back to the top, it tries to update. Yeah, now again. Okay, so N. So, hi from Emacs Berlin. Control-C, Control-C. And now to toot, it should end up in the timeline. There you are. You can reply to a toot with R, and then it forms a reply. All kind of the stuff you would expect. You can, with L, you can see the local timeline. So this is the same here. There's like two icons here. This is the local timeline, and this is a federated timeline. That means that in this timeline here, I see all the toots of everybody on the same server. And in this timeline, I see all the toots of everybody of all the servers that this server communicates with. So this is another reason why you kind of want to pick a nice server, because then maybe your local timeline will be filled with content that is relative to you. Like I know there's an instance specifically for sort of functional programming stuff. Till book my toot. Okay, cool. Okay, functional cafe might be something for you folks. Then is this for people interested in functional programming and languages, for example. So yeah, that's Mastodon. Any questions about Mastodon or Mastodon.el?
Yeah, so it's compatible with social, but from the server side, from the client which is from Emacs, you can only talk to Mastodon.
Yeah, that is true. So they all talk O statuses between each other, but the client-server protocol is not standardized. So GNU Social kind of uses a re-implementation of an old version of the Twitter API, which the Mastodon author decided that was sort of not the way to go anymore. So he kind of came up with his own, he thought, better considered API. I saw that the Mastodon.el repo, there's an issue here to track that they want to add GNU Social support. Or at least someone's asking for it, but yeah, so clients tend to support one or the other. I mean, some clients support multiple, but it's a separate implementation. Yes?
So 500 characters is on Mastodon. So what happens when it's federated with GNU Social with Emacs, say 2000?
Yeah, you just get that stuff in your feed. So I think on Mastodon.social I follow some people. Yeah, for instance, I'm pretty sure this person is on GNU Social. Yeah, and so sometimes, yeah, you just get these huge blobs of text in your feed. I guess maybe, yeah, Mastodon Social seems to be having some issues. I've been getting some 500. It might be overloaded again. That's kind of, it's been struggling as it grows. And so this is the instance that the author of Mastodon runs, which means that initially it was the most popular one. So it has, I don't know, something like 60,000 people on it now, 51,000. And so it's been kind of overloaded regularly, which means that they've now closed the doors. You can't sign up to that one anymore, also to kind of spread the load over the network. But yeah, there's nothing in the protocol really about those limits. So it, unless a certain server or a certain instance decides to limit that, it just shows you whatever it gets. So you could kind of hack it and just push huge blobs into people's timelines. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.